So it was wide open, right? It was like people could just, drive across. And so we had, police chases. We had, shootouts. We had, it was like the Wild West, literally the Wild West at that time.
El Paso, well, we're back on. We're here on our podcast. We have another visitor here. His name is Oscar Hagelsey, really good friend of mine. Not only my friend, but I consider him like family. Oscar, can you tell us a little bit of who you are, what you do? I mean, where are you from? You know?
Thank you for having me. I consider you as family too. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Like I said, my name's Oscar Hagelsip. I was born and raised here in El Paso. Actually, I was raised in Socorro. Small little. It's nothing like it is today. I think that right now El Paso and kind of Socorro kind of merged together. Back then it was really separate. So I was born and raised here, first generation American. My parents immigrated from Mexico. My mother, Madrecita, from Sinaloa. My dad from Sonora. So they met in Mexico, fell in love, and immigrated to El Paso. And then at an early age, teenager todavía, left for the Army. I left for the Army, did my enlistment, and then I started working for the United States government since then.
How old are you?
I was 17 when I enlisted.
17, man.
Yep, todavía chavillo.
What was your job? How did you evolve,
My official, it's called an MOS, military occupational specialty, was a Patriot missile operator. So I did anything having to do with air defense, specifically with the Patriot missile, which you're way too young to remember this, but during the Persian Gulf War, it was like the Patriot was like the star of that era, right? Like Scud Busters is what they call it. So basically my job was just anything having to do with the Patriot missile. My secondary occupation was I was attached to a military police unit. So that's kind of where my law enforcement career kind of kicked off.
So you were, being young, man, I can just imagine, did you think you would do something like this? Did you ever think like, man, this is what I want to do? How do you handle all these responsibilities?
You know what? So I was very fortunate in my career, in my life, that I had real good mentors from the beginning, right? Not that I never imagined or I never wanted to be law enforcement. It's just that it was unattainable, right? Like to us growing up in that little part of town or that area, like you saw law enforcement like, yeah, they're here, they're patrolling, but they're not really from the community, right? And like I said, at that time, Socorro was probably the biggest location in the United States where the drugs that were coming in from Mexico were being staged at, right? So a lot of that community was involved in the smuggling of cocaine and marijuana that was coming from the Juarez cartel. Because you gotta remember, when I was growing up, the Juarez cartel was the biggest cartel in the world, and it was led by the biggest drug lord of all. I mean, he literally to this day, not even Pablo Escobar was as big as Amado Carrillo was, right? Amado Carrillo amassed the biggest fortune having to do with the illicit trade, than even like 3 or 4 times more than Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar gets all the accolades because he was more upfront. He was he made himself a congressman. He was a congressman in Colombia and all that.
Wow.
But never, nobody has ever reached the amount of success and wealth in the narcotics game that Amado Carrillo was. He was right across the border, right in Juarez, right? So it was very, very natural for the drugs that were coming in, that were being smuggled in through the port of entries in Isleta and Fabens and even El Paso. They would come straight to the streets in Socorro, or the houses of Socorro, where they were being stored, and then they were being distributed across the United States. And so growing up in that aspect, right? You're growing up, it's nothing unusual, right? A lot of people are like,
it's an everyday thing that you see.
It was an everyday thing. Like you knew friends that he's involved in the game, he's involved in the game. Like you would see families that were struggling just to put food on the table one week. The next week they were building mansions, they were driving, vehicles, and well, of course, but it was like to me it wasn't anything unusual. I kind of felt
grew
like
up seeing it.
Yeah, I kind of felt that everybody did that in the border, right? Like whether it was in Laredo or in the border in Arizona or in California, but it was very unique to that specific area because, like I said, the Juarez cartel, and I didn't know this until I started being a law enforcement agent and kind of studying the histories of the cartels. That time, the Juarez cartel, like I was in the epicenter, of drug trafficking in that era.
You were young. I mean, what were your job titles? How do you transition? Because you're retired now.
Right.
And you work different positions. I mean, I've heard some stories. You have some crazy stories, man.
I do have some crazy stories. Yes.
What were your job titles? What did you used to do?
So basically, I was a border patrol agent. I started as a border patrol agent. I did some stuff with a postal post office. Did a little bit of stuff there, but for the most part, my federal career started with the border patrol. I was a border patrol agent, and I was a border patrol agent in Fabens, Texas, which is another little town about an hour away from, at that time, an hour away from the city limits of El Paso. The border patrol station itself was tiny. It was like a little, maybe 20 by 20 room, right? And if we had at that time, if we had like 4 border patrol agents on duty for any specific shift, you had a full squad, right? And you're talking about patrolling 45 miles of border, border with Mexico, and then 100 miles north, right? So it was hectic. It was before all the walls and the fences that you see right now. So it was wide open, right? It was like people could just drive across, and so we had police chases, we had shootouts, we had it was like the Wild West, literally the Wild West at that time. The majority of my specifically of my work as an agent was undercover work. It started then because I don't even remember at that time. A lot of people will remember this. It was the era of either the walkie-talkies or the direct
Like
connect,
the Nextel.
the Nextel, right?
Yeah. Well, they took them off because of that, no?
Well, I don't,
not really?
I don't really know if that's where they took it off, but I mean, it was very popular at the time. So that was just starting. It was new. I had never heard that until I started seeing the dopers using it, right? And so we would jump a load at the border, right? Like, okay, they were coming in, through whatever, through the county line or whatever. We would be monitoring them. As soon as they made it north, we would jump, what we call jump, arrest that unit. I started hearing these little phones, beep, 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 and they would be asking like, "Hey, where are you? ¿Dónde estás? ¿Qué chingo? ¿Qué rollo?" ¿verdad? And to me, like I was smart enough to know that the guys that are driving the vehicle, they're not the hierarchy of the cartel. No son los chingones, right?
Yeah.
It's just a guy that wanted to make $50, right? So they hired, hey, you want to make $50? Drive this vehicle, take it to the Walmart or whatever. And so they weren't really known, right? So whoever was coordinating the load, I would be calling them on the phone. Hey, where are you? So I would start getting the phone, and I started playing with the phone. Like, hey, pues aquí estoy. ¿De chingados? ¿A dónde voy? Ah, pues ya te dije, güey. You're going to Walmart. You're going to Big 8 or whatever. So I would literally take off my border patrol uniform to called the border patrol tuxedo, right? Like just the border patrol pants, and
Yeah.
I had a white shirt under. Take off my cap, and I would get on the vehicle, and I would drive to wherever they were directing me to go. Whether it was, could be the Big 8 supermarket, the Walmart, wherever. And then I would show up, and you could see right away, like, oh, that's the vehicle. Whoever was waiting for the load would be like, that's a vehicle, and I would call them, and they would be answering. I'm like, those are the guys that are. So then we would arrest those people, kind of take it more and more into that. And at that time, the Border Patrol, it was before September 11th, right? Before before Department of Homeland Security was created. So at that time, the Border Patrol belonged to the Department of Justice. So the Border Patrol had it was a specialized unit. It was called the Anti-Smuggling Unit. And they were investigators. There were special agents, investigators within the Border Patrol. All of them were Border Patrol agents, but they had been specially trained to be special agents, investigators. And they would investigate like organized smuggling, whether it was humans, drugs, whatever was organized. That was a unit that investigated them. And so the supervisor at that time, Celio Parra, which was a special agent in charge of the anti-smuggling unit, he took notice of like, hey, this kid, he's a trainee out at Fabens, like he's going above and beyond because he's furthering the investigations. So I had a commercial driver's license that I had to obtain that allowed me to drive big semi truck. I obtained it in the military, semi trucks, and so a lot of the a lot of the trafficking that was going on at that time from the border was through commercial trucking. So they kind of asked me to, as a trainee, right? Which was, I mean, I don't think it's happened since or it happened
Unheard of.
before. It was unheard of,
Yeah.
right? As a trainee, I started working undercover with the anti-smuggling unit, and my job was basically to pick up loads. I was portraying to be a corrupt truck driver, right? A truck driver that was willing to, move
Do
merchandise, for money. So I started, working undercover, moving, narcotics, humans and stuff to Dallas, or anywhere that I wanted to. And so that's really how my undercover career started. After that, I became a special agent when Department of Homeland Security was created after the September 11th attacks. I've been lucky enough to, I think, been fortunate enough, not lucky, I've been fortunate, I've been blessed to be able to say that I was involved in a lot of the major investigations that the country, that the United States was going through at that time.
And how old were you doing all this stuff?
I was in my 20s. 20.
Man, I mean, how would you say? I mean, how do you become this successful in your career going through all these things? I mean, what do you think put you in that spot? What did you do? I mean, that really put you in a position where, I mean, because this is rare, man. I mean, it's rare to just, you don't just get into that position just like that, you know?
I think first of all, my success came from being able to be a successful covert agent, right? A undercover agent, right? And a lot of it had to do with, I mean, plain and simple is that I grew up with these guys, right? Like we were talking about earlier, that it wasn't anything unusual for me to know that, hey, this individual is involved with the Juarez cartel, the Sinaloa cartel. And they were friends, right? Because that's who you grew up with. It's not unlike an agent in New York, right? That grows up among the mafia, right? The Cosa Nostra, right?
Yeah.
Basically, what happened with me, I was very successful in infiltrating these cartels because I knew them. I mean, they were, I knew their lingo, I knew how they talk. So that's my initial success.
Now, man, it's crazy, right? Because I mean, growing up, I mean, we get to be in the school, we're in high school, we get to see this movie, of
Right.
the cartel. You hear about Amado Carrillo, El Señor de los Cielos,
Right.
and in school, I don't even know why, but they make it seem like all this is fun. Like it's cool to do all this stuff and have all this money, and you see people selling and doing all this stuff, making money. But I mean, in all reality, you get to see the really bad behind closed door on how bad this is for young kids to be involved in this. I mean, what would you tell this generation?
If you really want to get into drug smuggling, to smuggle drugs, it's relatively easy. I mean, it is. You just gotta want to do it, right? It's just the consequences. You don't realize the consequences because, you know what? And I'm gonna go a little bit further and say that a lot of people do realize the consequences, but they don't care, right? They realize that there's a short shelf life in the drug game, but they're willing to pay that price in order to live life at its fullest for whatever it is, and so they're willing to
risk all that.
to get that benefit
For a temporary, fix, in other words,
Correct.
right?
And they're willing to. I mean, there's a lot of the drug dealers in Mexico, a lot of the hierarchy of the cartels. They know there's a short shelf life. That's why they live life to their fullest, right? I'm only here. What they say is, I'm here for a short time. I'm here for a good time, not a long time, right? So they'll do whatever as long as they know that they're making money and they'll be able to put a little bit away for the family that's going to remain. So they're going to live life to its fullest because that's what they chose to do.
And over the years, I mean, I get to see that. I mean, you're an amazing son. I mean, you love your mom amazingly. You're an amazing father.
Thank you.
And how do you become part of a world, but it doesn't influence you to be that world? If that makes sense. I've seen a lot of people. I mean, I've even seen it in movies. Actors.
Right.
These movie actors are doing narco movies and all that
Right.
stuff, and then all of a sudden you hear these guys going to rehab,
Right.
because they believe they're narcos and all this stuff.
A lot of you young guys over there that feel like, okay, it's fucking fun. It is fun. It's fun. It's exciting. You're adrenaline, and you're portraying to be, this hot shot. But realize that it's real hard on relationships. Let me give you an example. Like
It's a lonely world, I would say, at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's lonely, but it's very weird in the sense, like, for example, with Laura, right? When I was married to Laura, like I would be negotiating multi-million-dollar deals with drug dealers, right? With La Linea, with Juarez Cartels. Would be at a strip club or would be somewhere, right? And you're trying to portray that persona, right? I'm a drug dealer too.
Yeah.
I'm in the game. So you're spending money. You're around women, right? And you're portraying to be this badass, right? Like I can spend whatever money, and you're talking to the guy that is a ruthless killer, and he's telling you like, "Fuck with my shit, I'm gonna kill you," or "Te voy a matar." Güey, yo también, güey, pues qué chinga, So you're like your mind
at the
is
same
like,
level.
yeah, your mind is like, I'm a fucking badass, I'm estoy chingón, yo estoy chingón, you know what I'm saying? And then the meeting is over, the negotiation is over, and then you head home, right? And
Tira la basura.
exactly. You didn't throw out the trash. You left your socks, and then your mind is like, fuck, do you know who I am? Like, not that you would say that, right? But your mind, it's real
It
hard.
does miss.
It's real. So it was easier for me to not be, that's mainly the reason that I divorced, Laura, right? It's just that I didn't want to put her through all that stuff. I didn't want her, because it was tough. It was tough on her. I could see it. You know what I'm saying?
And you're not doing something intentionally.
But you know what?
This is your job too.
But that being said, Luis, yeah, you're not doing it intentionally, but it kind of gives you permission, right?
It's doing your conscience.
In a weird way.
Yeah.
Like you justify, like, yeah, did I have to meet this guy at the strip club? No, I didn't. I could have probably told him, like, it's too fucking loud there. You know what I'm saying? Let's meet at wherever that we can talk. But am I like, yeah, you're a young man, like, yeah, let's go. It's my job. You have lipstick on your collar, like, it's my job. Like, like you gotta realize that stuff, it's tough on the family, and that's really the reason that I didn't have a child until I was almost 40. I decided to retire, and I retired at a relatively young age, right? So I still, wanted to, contribute, right? So I got a private investigator license in the state of Texas. So I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of Texas, and that we're involved in the same business, right? And so basically, I kind of took all the experience that I had being an investigator for 30 years in the federal government, just kind of transition into private investigation, right? Which is, to me, it was a natural evolvement, right? It's because I've already had all the training, I've already done, but I'm not working for anybody, I'm working for myself. So I think that the beauty of that is that you get to pick and choose the cases that you want to take, right?
Why do we even need a private investigator?
A lot of the work that we focus on is like background investigations, right? If you're going to hire somebody, nowadays, if a company is going to spend, especially if it's like a major company, right? Like Paso Electric or somebody big, they're going to make an investment on a person. They really want to know who that person is, right? You do background investigations, right? We determine who this person really is, right?
Yeah.
What they do, on their off time. And a lot of the times you'd be surprised, that people think that they're hiring somebody that is like up and up because of the record. And it come to turn out it's not the person that they would want to represent their company. We do background checks, believe it or not, for churches, right? For a lot of congregations that want to promote people into a higher position. Or we also do a lot of, believe it or not, missing person investigations, right? That involve the cartels, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll bring me in to kind of determine if a missing person maybe was involved in illicit activity, right?
Okay.
Involved with the cartels, based on the career that I had, the contacts that I maintained in Mexico for the most part, and find out, like, hey, was this guy kidnapped because he owed money, or is this a ransom? And if it's a ransom, we're able to negotiate a ransom. Or if it's not a ransom, if the person was just picked up and disappeared because he owed on a drug debt, then we're at least able to give the family closure and say, like, hey, you know what? Your family member, as harsh as it might seem, got picked up because he was involved in illicit activity, and he got killed because of that. A lot of times a private investigator or an investigator in general will take your money and give you the information that you want. But what is the end result? What we want to know is that you're paying for something that you want to know at the end, that you want to know, like, hey, this is what happened to my love member, or yes, my spouse was cheating on me, and this is what I needed. But we're going to let you know, like, we're going to ask you before we take your money.
So send us your questions. We'll put the link below, our website, our business. I have one final question, right? You had an opportunity, to talk to the entire humanity. We all have problems, right?
Right.
What do you tell them? What would you like to tell them? I mean, you're a parent, you're a son. What would you like to tell them?
So, Luis, and we've had this conversation, and I probably didn't know that it was going to come up in this podcast, right? But me and you, we have, like, you're my brother, right? We've had conversations like this at length.
Yeah.
That I struggle with. I think that it has to do with the fact that I've lived a crazy life, right?
Yeah.
I lived a fast life. I've lived, fancy cars, flashy women, all this, and it's a struggle for me to be a parent, to kind of tell my son, do what I tell you, but not what I do, right? I try to lead by example, which I try to do.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do, right? My child is excellent. You know him. He's an excellent kid, smart
Excellent
kid.
kid.
He's a kind-hearted kid. It's just I struggle with that because, like, I'm still trying to find God. I am. Like, I believe in God. I believe there's a God. It's just that I struggle with, like, I want God to kind of knock me in the head, and say, like, I'm here, dude. Like, and because I think I look at stuff, and I look at it very logically. Like, really, like I look at it like
Questioning everything all
Yeah,
the
like
time,
even
yeah.
when I go to church, and we've had this struggle, right? That I go to church and I see a guy that we've investigated when I was like, that fucker is the dirtiest fucker, and he's here in church speaking in tongues and stuff like that, and I come out of there so disappointed because I'm thinking, like, well, if that guy is in church and he's talking to God, yet he's doing all this stuff, and real. So I guess, for lack of better terms, what I would want to say to people is that just try to be the best person that you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never hurt anybody intentionally, even if they deserved it, right? I admire you because you're so, like, God is the center of your being, right? Like, everything that you base on your family, all stuff, your business and stuff, it's all based on God. And I listen to what you tell me, right? And I want that. Like, I really do crave it. It's just that, like, we've talked about it. Like, hey, it's not a secret that, I'll go to a strip club every now and then because, hey, I want to relax, and not that I'm, and you try to tell me, like, hey, you don't need to do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just,
But I mean, it's real for each and every one
Right.
differently, right? I mean, my goal is not to judge you, nor give you rules of who or what you should be. My goal is to love you, and if it's in my heart to tell you something, I'm gonna tell it to you, whether you agree or disagree. And it goes vice versa.
Right.
I live my life based on what I've learned. The church that I go to, the example that I can be. But I'm still not perfect, man.
Right.
I still do stuff that I shouldn't do. I mean, I have people tell me, "Hey, well, that's not really Christian like," and it makes me feel bad.
Right.
But I don't do it intentionally.
Right.
I don't do it to hurt somebody. I don't do it to make me look like less of a Christian or more of a Christian, because I don't consider myself as a title person. Every day I'm just trying to be the best version of myself, and I think you do that too.
Right.
In your own way,
Right.
and me in my own way. Who am I to tell you you're wrong, and
Right.
and who are you to tell me that I'm wrong, right? I mean, that makes sense to everybody else, right? And that's the goal. You want to tell humanity that,
Yeah.
like you said, be the best version that you can be of yourself. Your convictions are your convictions,
Right.
and mine are mine, and each and everybody's gonna have that,
Right.
and I think that's the best part of it, and we're all gonna have different examples for everybody and different advices for everybody, but. Guys, we just want to say thank you for listening to us. Thank you, Oscar, for coming by and
Thank you.
and
Having me.
being part of this. This is the beginning
Right.
to other stories.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
Oscar got crazy stories,
we
man.
have plenty of stories.
We're gonna have podcasts
We have
for other,
received, yeah.
other stories that involve other stuff. If you want to listen to more stories
Yeah.
about his career, send us a message. What would you want to hear? What would you want to know? And we'll go from there.
Thank
Thank you, guys.